Just watch your breath. That's the advice. So you sat down, you watched, and 30 seconds later you were planning dinner.
What almost nobody tells you, that instruction is real. It's just step 1 of 16. There's an original manual, older than every app, and tonight we read it properly.
By the end of this video, you'll have the first 4 steps, the ones you can actually use tonight, and you'll know where the other 12 go. No incense required.
Our story starts at the end of the rainy season, over 2,500 years ago.
For 3 months, monks across the river valleys had stayed put. The rain's retreat, the tradition's great training season, built around staying in one place and practicing.
At the eastern monastery near Savatthi, something unusual was happening. Senior monks were each teaching groups of junior monks, 10 here, 20 there, 30, 40.
Now came Pavāraṇā night, the full moon that closes the retreat. By rule, each monk may speak up, invite correction, clear the air. That night, the assembly sat in complete silence, and the Buddha, looking out at them, said he was content with this practice. Content and not done. And in the same breath, he pushed them toward what was still unattained, still unrealized. This was not a crowd being told they had arrived. Then something curious. He announced he'd stay 1 more month, right through what they called the White Water Lily month.
Word spread. Monks in the countryside around Savatthi heard it and started walking.
A month later, another full moon night, and the open-air assembly had grown large, and again, completely quiet. He moved through the assembly, describing who sat there. Monks at every stage, from those early on the path all the way to the fully awakened. A mixed crowd, trainees and teachers together, the whole spread of the path in one field. And to all of them, he gave the practice we're about to learn. Why does a complete manual get taught on a night like this? Hold that thought, because the answer changes how you'll use these instructions tonight. Because the version most people know is missing about 90% of it. Here's how everyone knows it. Breathe in and know you're breathing in. Breathe out and know you're breathing out. Nothing more complicated than that. The first numbered instructions are exactly that. Know a long in-breath or out-breath. Know a short one, long or short. The text doesn't rank them. It cares that you know. Notice what's not there. No empty your mind. No think of nothing. The instruction is to know one specific thing while it happens. That distinction is why people quit. They think the goal is silence, fail at silence in 9 seconds, 9 is generous, and decide they can't meditate. The Buddha's framing is gentler and stranger. You're building a habit of knowing. Long breath? Known. Short breath? Also known. Not a performance. A logbook entry. The breath came in long, and somebody was home for it. And there's a quiet genius in starting here. The breath is always available. You can't leave it at home. It's the one object that's been with you since minute 1. And then, the part lost somewhere between that full moon night and your phone's meditation app, the manual keeps going. Remember that. 16 steps, 4 sets of 4. Each set trains a different layer. Body, feelings, mind, and mental qualities. Same breath throughout. Hold on to that too. The breathing stays constant through all 16. It's the anchor.
What changes is what you're aware of.
This discourse is often described as the most complete meditation instruction in the canon. 16 steps that connect explicitly all the way through to release.
So, let's do what that assembly did. From the top, slowly enough to use. 0th, setting and posture. The full formula: the wilderness, the shade of a tree, or an empty hut. Sit down cross-legged, body erect, mindfulness established. Plain version: a quiet spot, a stable seat, an upright spine. Attention gathered. You don't need a special cushion or a bell. The original assumed a floor and a person. Your chair counts. Step 1. Breathe in long, and know it's long. Notice what the step does not say. It doesn't say make it long. Knowing comes first. The text starts you as a witness, not a manager. If the breath runs long, fine. You're not forcing length. You're noticing what already happened. Sounds too small to matter. Try it once. One long breath, actually noticed, and you may feel attention land inside the body. That shift, awareness actually in the body, instead of narrating from the balcony, is quiet, easy to miss, and worth noticing every time it happens. Step 2. Short breaths get identical treatment. After a while, breathing often shortens by itself, and short is no longer failure. It's data. A practical warning, the one you'll hear from most teachers. The moment you try to make the breath long or deep, you've usually stopped knowing it and started directing it. Let the mirror stay a mirror. That's the fix for the quitting problem. There is no wrong breath. Long? Known. Short? Known. Both count. Kill the worry now. Am I doing it right? If you noticed your breath in the last 30 seconds, that noticing is where this practice starts. It grows from there. Step 3. Breathing in, sensitive to the entire body. Widen. Breath stays the anchor. Awareness opens to include everything the body is doing. Hands, weight, temperature, the small lift of ribs. You're not hunting sensations. You're letting more of the body come into view. Now, translators genuinely argue about what entire body meant. We'll come back to that fight. It's a good one. For tonight, pick the reading that serves the practice. Awareness anchored in the breath, reaching as far into the body as stays steady. You can refine the interpretation later. And when the mind wanders off, it will. Reestablish mindfulness and come back to knowing the breath. Later, where the discourse maps each set of 4 onto mindfulness practice, it names the quality doing the work here. Ardent, alert, mindful. Step 4. Train yourself to calm bodily fabrication. And a companion discourse, MN 44, identifies bodily fabrication as the in and out breath itself. Plain version: let the breathing settle. Many teachers describe the mechanism simply. Stop interfering, and the breath settles on its own. Finer, quieter, nearly invisible. Force, it turns out, is just one more thing to put down. You may notice shoulders dropping without being told, a jaw unclenching. Sometimes it happens that way. Sometimes it doesn't. And the training is the same either way. Breathe. Calming bodily fabrication. That's Tetrad 1. 4 steps you can begin exploring in 5 minutes tonight. The text sets no clock.
Its phrase for the practice is developed and cultivated. And these 4 aren't a warm-up before real meditation. They're the seed of the first foundation of mindfulness, the body, which the text says comes to fulfillment when the practice is developed.
Everything after builds upward from here. Stay with just these 4 steps and you'd still be inside the original method. Manual shifts. Same breath, new territory. Feelings. Steps 5 and 6. Training to experience rapture and pleasure. And no, not what it sounds like. Rapture. Pīti. The word means rapture, refreshment, joyful uplift. Later meditation manuals catalog it in degrees. Hair standing up, a flash like lightning, a wave breaking over the body. Though this discourse itself simply says, breathe, experiencing it. Pleasure, sukha, is quieter. Ease, contentment, happiness with a floor under it. However they come, the training line stays the same. Breathe, experiencing them. Chasing them pulls you off the breath. Fleeing them does too. This matters because beginners meet these states and make one of 2 mistakes: grabbing, finally, or panicking. What's happening to me? The steps offer a third option. Keep the breath as home base and let feelings be weather you can name. And if none of it shows up, no uplift, no ease, just you and a busy mind, nothing is broken. The step says to train in experiencing rapture, not to manufacture it on demand. Some nights, the weather is just weather. Steps 7 and 8 turn to something the old texts name precisely: mental fabrication, which MN 44 defines as perception and feeling, the mental events bound up with the mind. Same 2 moves. Experience the fabrication, then train to calm it, the way the body just learned to. 8 steps in, notice the shape of it. Become sensitive, then settle. The 8 that remain keep training, gladdening, steadying, releasing, and finally, contemplating change itself. 8 steps down, 8 to go. Fair warning, the final stretch isn't about feeling better at all. Calm was never the destination. It's the platform. What gets built on it is where this stops sounding like wellness advice. Tetrad 3 trains the mind itself. Step 9, sense the mind's state right now. Not what you wish it were, what it actually is. Scattered, dull, bright, steady? Not judging, inventorying. Step 10, train to gladden the mind. Deliberately give it cause to rejoice in being here. Teachers differ on exactly how. The step itself just says it gets trained, like a muscle. Yes, the manual tells you to make the practice enjoyable. Monks 2,000 years ago had bored minds too. You're not the first person to sit down and immediately think about lunch. Step 11. Train to steady the mind. Gather it. Sustained concentration grows here, out of everything before it. Step 12. Train to release the mind. Loosen its grip, unburden it, let go of whatever it's clenching. If release sounds abstract, teachers point to small versions of it, like the moment you stop checking whether it's working. A taste of it, not a definition. The final tetrad turns the camera sideways. Step 13. Focus on inconstancy, watching everything you've noticed change. Breaths change. Feelings change. Minds change. Nothing observed holds still. And the manual treats this as an observation, not a philosophy.
14. Dispassion. Literally, fading. The interest in chasing and fixing cools. 15. Cessation. Watching things end, all the way down to the roots of the noise itself.
16. Relinquishment. Letting go, contemplated on purpose. Notice what the training includes and what it skips. Rapture and pleasure are in it, but as things to know, not prizes to chase. Powers and spectacles aren't on the list at all.
What's promised is a training, structured, connected, preserved for roughly 2,500 years. The rest is practice.
Map check, because here's why this discourse gets the attention it does. 4 tetrads line up exactly with the 4 establishings of mindfulness: body, feelings, mind, mental qualities, the frame of the famous Satipatthana teaching. And the discourse draws the chain outright. Mindfulness of breathing, developed and cultivated, fulfills the 4 establishings. Those fulfill the 7 factors of awakening, and those bring clear knowing and release to their culmination. Mindfulness, investigation, energy, rapture, tranquility, concentration, equanimity. The classic list, arising from this practice, developed over time. One discourse carrying the anchors and the sequence that develops them. Anchors and engine on the same page. And that's the real significance of that full moon night. A text that explicitly connects breath meditation to the central structures of the path. Taught to a community stretching from new monks still under instruction to the fully awakened. That's the completeness behind calling it the path in miniature. Now, honestly, where traditions disagree. Dispute 1, that little word parimukkham, mindfulness established to the fore. 3 main readings exist. The Abhidhamma's list puts the spot at the nostrils and upper lip. Thanissaro points to a Vinaya passage where the same word plainly means the front of the chest. But for meditation, he lands on a 3rd reading that skips anatomy entirely. To the fore, mindfulness made prominent, no bodily spot at all. The readings genuinely conflict. One says, find a spot. One says, there is no spot. What they share is the intent. Mindfulness established deliberately at the start of every sitting. Dispute 2. Entire body. Your whole physical body or the breath body, the full length of each breath? Serious translators land on different sides, citing other suttas and old commentaries. We won't invent a verdict that doesn't exist. The readings overlap, but aren't identical. One widens through the physical body, the other stays with the complete breath. Test both. Notice which one actually settles you, and work with that. Which means, in practice, nobody can sell you the one correct answer. A teacher will offer you one. The sources leave room for at least 3. Which reading actually steadies your attention is the part you get to decide. Third honesty, the original audience weren't a beginner's class. It was a mixed assembly, juniors and accomplished monks together. Yet the first 4 steps work for a total beginner, which is why breath awareness remains one of the most widely taught entry practices in the traditions that preserve this text. Traditions differ on depth, interpretation, and how far to push concentration. On the front door, breathe and know you're breathing,
The traditions that teach this text agree.
26 centuries of argument and a door millions have walked through. Breathe and know you're breathing. Which brings us back to you, tonight.
So, tonight's version, a modern adaptation of the first 4 steps, true to their order. Sit upright somewhere stable. Breathe. Know when it's long, know when it's short. Widen your awareness to the whole body breathing. Then let the breath settle, the way the 4th step trains. 5 minutes as a beginning, steps 1 through 4, from a discourse given under a full moon in the open air to an assembly of monks at every stage of the path. No app required, no belief required, just knowing, breath after breath. That's the whole entry path. Everything else in this video, the feelings, the factors, the map, the text describes as growing from this same breath practice, developed and cultivated over time. If tonight goes badly, mind everywhere, nothing settling, that's still practice. You noticed. Come back and know the next breath, long or short. Noticing is never wasted here.
More of life's biggest questions answered from the oldest sources. Subscribe and breathe easy. You've read the manual now.